over close to 1 million square kilometers of land, over 80 million hectares of arable land. Yet Nigeria cannot feed itself because of bad leadership. Today, our GDP per capita has reduced to about 830 something. Formerly, it used to be over 3,000. Just Goodluck Jonathan's administration here. It used to be close to 3,000 or over 2,000. So we have lost our prospects and people have become poorer because of bad leadership. Because of bad leadership. And when you don't get leadership right, you blame everybody but yourself for your own national problems. You blame everybody but yourself for your own national malaise. And when a nation starts to blame everybody for their national malaise, then they will never grow as a country. They will never grow as a country. So what's the problem with Africa? The problem with Africa has been that of a leadership that doesn't think about the interests of its people, that only thinks about its own interests, and never grows the lot of the people. Of a leadership that does not think of how to better the lots of the people. Of a leadership which, under their watch, the lives and the economic prospects of the people are being devalued. And those are the problems. Let me tell you a lower GDP per capita. Let me tell you what has caused economic hardship. Capita correlates to higher poverty rates. It means a larger population is living, struggling to make basic care needs like food, healthcare. Economic disparities can widen as health is concentrated in fewer hands, exacerbating social tensions. Health outcomes. With less money, there's often less investment, leading to poorer health services. The government talked about 100 billion in investment in the healthcare sector. Only what they call billion was released, only 23 billion. Because Nigeria doesn't have the money. Today, now we have increased the budget to about 54 billion. That's about $36 billion from 49 trillion. I mean, 54 trillion from 49 trillion. The question is, how is that going to improve the lives of a lot of people? Tolling. But how improving the... Let me tell you what lower GDP per capita does. Education. Education quality and access. Lower funding for education results in overcrowded schools, underpaid teachers, inadequate educational materials, which affects the quality of education and literacy gap. Skills gap. This can lead to a workforce less prepared for skills gap, hindering economic growth. And that's why my foundation, the Oseni, we're partnering with Glotil to give free AI training. I've been talking about this. I mean, anytime I talk about it, take opportunity. We have over 2,000 people that have registered, and we're putting the classes in cohorts. Some cohorts have benefited. It's just introduction to AI, at least so that you know what they're talking when they're saying AI. It's a skill set that you should also have paid for. We have totally made it free. All you just need is internet, register, they will send you the link the day you're going to have your own lectures, you take your lectures, and that's it. Infrastructure. There's typically less investment in road, electricity, water, sanitation system, which impacts our daily life. Employment, unemployment, and underemployment. These are the effects of low GDP per capita. And Nigeria's GDP per capita has dropped to about 830, 840 from about 870 that used to be. Unemployment, lower economic output means fewer opportunities that do not match the skills of education and workforce. These are the effects of bad leadership. Investment and business climate, domestic and foreign investment, lower GDP can deter investors due to perceived higher risk, lack of infrastructure, and smaller consumer market. Yes, Nigeria consumer market is getting smaller. We might have a large population, yes, but the truth is, what is the disposable income of that population? I would rather go to a consumer market of 20, 30, 40 million people with GDP per capita of 3 or 4,000 than a over 200 million market with GDP per capita of 800 and something million. I'm going to show you some empirical data that's going to shock you. Social stability, crime and social security. Economic hardship can contribute to higher crime rates And this can lead to social unrest and conflict over resources. Public government services with smaller GDP per capita tax base, which has less capacity to fund public services, which can degrade the quality of life and public trust in government. All of these, as we speak, are they happening in Nigeria? Be the judge. Internal and external migration. People might move from urban looking for better opportunities. Cultural and social impact, cultural preservation, economic constraint might lead to less funding. And those are all the things GDP per capita, a lesser GDP per capita will be able to do. Let's say Nigeria's GDP per capita in 1960. I'm just trying to give you empirical data. So you see for yourself. GDP per capita, when you look at it, 1960, we're beginning to trend to the place we used to be in 1960. So those are the problems we are facing as a nation. I just want to pick it out to be able to show you so that you see where we have gone and what we have become as a nation as we speak today. Because with this new GDP per capita at about 800 and something, it's an eyesore. Nigeria's GDP per capita at some point in the about 2013, 2014 used to be way better than what we are having today. So that's what you see the essence of what leadership does. If you don't have good leadership, then you have problems. So I've not really gotten the numbers out, but I'm still looking at it. But when you look at it in 2014, GDP per capita, after we rebased the economy at about 500 billion, then was a lot better, was over 2,000. Today, it's dropped to 800 and something. Yeah, GDP per capita in the 60s was, around the region of 7, 6, between 5 to 7, 800, dollars. I think in the 70s when we had the oil boom, that's when it started to inch up to, and the 80s when it started to inch up to about close to 1,000. So when you look at that, you see the multi-myriad problems as regards our economy. What it just shows is that it is bad leadership that destroys a continent. And when a continent has leadership that is below par, then that continent definitely will have a lot of problems. And when the continent has problems, definitely the continent will never be able to see the light of day. The economy will be lackluster. There will be no economic strength. There will be no economic fecundity. The economy will have been left to its knees, and there will be no resort to any level of growth, for Nigeria's economy. And that's just it. And that's where we are as a nation today. So, truth is, when an economy starts to plummet, you see the signs. Okay, Nigeria's GDP per capita as of 1982 was 1,800. Be here, As of 1983 was 1,200. As of 1988 went back to 500 and something. This was when the economy started to plummet. As of 1993 went back to 500 and something. Nigeria's GDP per capita in 1996 went up to 1,600. 2001, 500 and something. The economy had gone back. 2004, 962. 2006, 1,500. 2007, 1,800. 2009, 1,800. 2010, 2,200. That's 2010. 2012, 2,600. 2014, 3,088. That's Nigeria's GDP per capita. Then 2015, 2,500. 2019, 2,022.65. 2022, 2,139. 2023, 1,005. From 2023, that it was 1,005, it has now come back to about 830 thereabouts. So, and I want you to also see the newspaper reportage about it. You'll see. I just want to show you. I'm just going through all of this to be able to show you the facts. It was reported widely in the papers. Nigeria GDP per capita is down to 835. As of 2023, it was over 1,500. The IMF is saying is the average income per person in Nigeria yet again reduced to 830.25, further shrinking the living standards of the people, according to a new data from International Monetary Fund. You can see it. Let me show you. That's it. So what does this mean? This means that the lot of people definitely is in dire straits, and that's it. And what happens across board is bad leadership. It's bad leadership that ruins the prospects of Africa. It's bad leadership that ruins the prospects of food and agriculture. And that's why on the show, we provide solutions. And that's why I took out time in Abidjan. I just came in yesterday from Abidjan to interview a couple of stakeholders in the agri sector. And I also interviewed the chief of the Lake Chad Institute, where we have, a lot of research on wheat. And from that research, we've been able to discover the problems that is affecting our wheat sector. And through that research, we are calling on the government to do something as regards wheat, funding more of the Lake Chad Institute. I'm going to play that interview after I finish this session, after I will take some calls. Because if the government doesn't do that, then we'll have problems in the lives of the people. So we are preferring solution. We are ensuring that the government does the needful on the African continent. We are ensuring that the government creates a real agricultural revolution. Nigeria has the capacity. Next week, I'm going to play an interview that I did also with the president of the African Development Bank on this channel, where he talked about development on the African continent and how we can fast-track development. And how we said, you know what, America is cutting aid, but it should be a time for us to be able to introspect. The question is also if we have good leaders. And I threw some very difficult questions also to him as regards the state of play of our economy and what is happening today. So we should be able to look at these things critically, and we are preferring solutions. We'll take your calls. It is bad leadership that ruins the prospect of a nation. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. It is bad leadership that ruins the prospects of a nation. It is bad leadership that ruins the prospect of a nation. Africa can actually do well. But as long as you have leaders that think like the ones we have, and also a people, because I've come to see that Africa's problem is all about the leaders. The people too are also lackluster. The people too are not ready to shift. then you can never have growth. As long as the people are not standing up and rising up to take responsibility for their own problems, then you can never have growth. So 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. We are on all our platforms. We are right on our radio station, Voice of the People, and we are impacting every step of the way. We're changing Africa one step at a time. And this is the possibility we see on our continent. Hello? We lost that call. That's the possibility we see on our continent. We believe that despite the challenges, Nigeria can shift. There can be a turnaround in our continent. But we need to speak the truth. You will see that everything we've been doing, especially on Impact Rufai, is an Afrocentric move for Africa's development. Hello.
Oh, fine. Good morning.
Morning. Great to have you. How are you?
I'm fine. Are you too?
Bless you. Talk to me, my brother.
This is on the line.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Gondo.
Okay, talk to me.
So the problem we have in Nigeria is not only the leaders, the citizens already.
Mm.
Because the problem is this, that you pity people who are not even pity for themselves.
Mm.
Because when you go around all the movements, you say that we can manage it. It's just like, so when you hear people, the way they talk, you know that nobody is ready to even change the leaders. And this is one of the tools which so-called in Nigeria, most especially, we don't have a leader.
Mm-hmm.
What we have is that people who always use one tools to disorganize people, and people are following it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is exactly what we have.
Mm-hmm.
I would remember things in school that we always fight for common defense. We still have the strong student union organization today. No. What we have is participants. Whenever they connect a little, they will go to rec and say, you cannot do that. So my brother, I enjoy you a lot. You cannot, if you keep on saying all these things.
No, we keep on saying it because the problems are ready to affect us. I mean, a country that its GDP per capita drops is a country that is in problems. And we're not saying this for anything. We are saying this because we want solutions to the problems. And that's why I go all over Africa now, meet solution providers.
Yeah, little business, a little food business. For years, I've been into the business. I think I buy from another place. But I'm now, because of the things, we can't even buy. We already know how to use it to be. Those ones, I think we should buy those.
I can imagine.
Just like I think we are not doing anything.
Thank you so much. Let me take other callers, my brother. Hello, how are you? Oh, I want just to take other callers there. 0818, beg your pardon. 0991991. Let's take some other calls. 0818 099 1991. 0818 099 1991. Let's take other caller. Hello, how are you? Hello?
Hello?
How are you?
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Morning, what's your name?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I love your program. I don't know what you're.
Bless you. What's your name, sir?
I create Mr. Emmanuel from Texas.
Okay, talk to me.
Yes, I pray that God will continue to give you the wisdom to educate us. And people like you in the country. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. So please watch out for that. Next week, we'll have the President of African Development back. We talk developments and we talk of the prospect for Africa's growth with him next week. Hello, how are you? This is another one, a great one of you. How are you? Great to have you.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you? Yes. Great to have you here.
Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Oh, we lost that. 0818 099 1991. And we also, had an exclusive interview in Abidjan where we talked to the former director of the Lake Chad Research Institute, where we talked about wheat and how we can grow wheat and improve wheat production in Nigeria. That interview is going to be playing up next. Yeah. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Morning. Please speak up.
Hello, good morning, sir.
What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Akin, sir.
Where are you calling from?
Coming from Port Harcourt.
Good to have you. Talk to me, my brother.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. It's a very good show. That's what I want to be contacted. But I believe whatever you don't do, that it's always excellent. So I'm a student, and I'm really glad to hear you talk about the AI.
Yes, that training is on. Go on. Go if you've checked my Twitter, the link I've posted about it. We had over 2,000 people. We want to give as close to over 50,000 people. So go and look for the information. You should be following me by now on Twitter. Go and check everywhere.
Yeah, of course. I'm following you on Twitter.
Yeah, so go and check all the information and be part of it. It's something for some great people, from the lady is a doctor of AI. She has a PhD in machine learning, worked at Alan Turing Institute in the UK. These are seasoned Nigerian professionals. And we just met. We met at the train station and we talked about this partnership. I said, Rufai, let's do it. And I thank them so much. So all the links are there. Go and take information because, the problem with Nigerians is when you even give them information free to utilize the opportunity, they will not utilize it. So it's not only the leaders, the people to have their problems. But we must surmount all of this. These are the things we do for Africa for free. If you have to get a free training for AI, it's going to cost you. But we made it free. Free, totally free. Introduction to AI. Some people are already having their cohorts. So go join that and let it help impact you. 0818 099 And these are some of the trainings we'll bring your way, And that's why I say, see, you cannot listen to Impact Refine, your life will not change. It's a mission for Africa's renewal. Hello, how are you?
Hello?
Great to have
I'm
you.
fine.
What's your name?
I'm picked up
Where are you calling from?
from Lagos.
Where in Lagos?
I got all this stuff.
Where is that?
I got all those stuff.
Okay, go ahead. Talk to me.
My one question I want to talk from the and actually is from our country. Our country is Poland. Our sister is Poland. Our sister is going to do a shower work. So I'm tired. I'm walking around. I'm thinking about everything. And it's my sister Nigeria. So I have to ask you something. I have to do you so that you said we let the hear waiting at the chick for my here.
Okay, the truth has to be said there. Yes, I know there are cases of people traveling to go to prostitution, but the truth is that's why we need to develop our economy within so that we can open up more opportunities. It's not a sustainable living. It's a moral. It's against the ethics of the world. That most of those women are abused in the end. So we must now shift them and give them productive skills. Give them productive skills. Get investors in. Liberate our economy in such a way that people can get jobs to do. Build remote economies. Pioneer the future. Those are the things we're going to do. And how do I say pioneer the future? Create things that have never been created before. I tell people, you see, despite the demerits of social media, there are some people that, if not for social media, they will have been criminals today. So you can be a content creator on social media. You could even have a school online. There are many things that can be done. Anything you can exchange. You can have skills. So it just gives a platform. And that's why we give platforms here from time to time for businesses and everything. We also give platforms for learning. We give you the best interviews, in-depth interviews, insights. VOP has become a learning ground. The things you hear here, you can't hear them anywhere else. Because we open up your mind. Like today now, it's sort of like a free lecture I'm going to be giving on the wheat markets. You might be a farmer. You might want to get seeds from Lake Chad Research Institute. We'll give you information as regards that if you listen to that interview. So it's a very powerful one and something that's going to liberate the mindset of a lot of people. So, listen out for these things, learn. Let's see how we can grow Africa together. Our leaders have failed, but we must not fail ourselves. we must not fail our continent. And that's why my challenge this year is I want to go around Africa and tell the great story of Africa and bring Africa to the world. That's one of my greatest goals this year. Because we believe Africa is not a hopeless case. It looks like it with wars in Goma and everywhere now, but we believe Africa is not a hopeless case. That's why we're calling on our leaders to be able to do well. And once we do that, we will do it. This interview I'm bringing you today at the One for Next is an interview I got out of Abidjan. I just got back from Abidjan yesterday, barely rested, edited, getting to work. We'll play it on other platforms. VOP also will get it. And these are the things for success that we're all looking at. Because we need to grow our continent together. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, Rufai.
Great to have you. What's your name?
This is Kaudi from Kwara State.
Good to have you. Talk to me, my brother.
Yes, I just want to share idea.
Mm.
My idea on development. The government needs to create a stable environment for SMEs to thrive. And we have been lacking behind on this for a very long time.
Mm.
So, to me, I think by the time government creates a stable environment, provide, pay them on tax holiday, before you know it, they will become employer of labor, and it's going to reduce the labor of workload on the government. At the same time, it's going to reduce the labor of poverty in the country. More so, it will reduce the level of crime and criminality within the system. So instead of the government going out there to go and call on the foreign investor, let's first of all try as much as possible to see how we can make use of our own people within the country, so that because places like China, Taiwan, Bangladesh, Japan, they started like this. So this is things which I want the government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Morning, great to have you.
I'm okay from Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with you. I've been following you even from Arise and everything. I'm pleased with someone like you. Like my prayer that God will continue to protect you and grant you wisdom in Jesus' name.
Amen.
You see, leadership is very, very essential for the survival of any nation.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I'm a farmer. I'm went into farming a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
But we believe that out of 50 acres of land we bought, plowed, and planted, I didn't get a grain of maize or even a jigger of cassava from them because of cattle that went there and affect the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a government that allowing this confrontation between farmers and herdsmen. And we cannot have a policy to constrain this head from going about, and then they come to God said that I wasn't there. There's no way that happened. I wouldn't be alive now because making this call. And so when we're talking about leadership, people tend to misunderstand that we are fighting for the soul of the nation. People become very, very divided over lines of ethnicism and religion and other things, and the nation is suffering and bleeding to death. We must have to make our minds up to what is bad and address issues realistically and holistically so we can move forward as a nation.
Thank you.
Because we do this, Nigeria, God will give someone like you grace, another person join hands together, and every Nigeria cannot do that, but because we have been patronized along ethnic and religious lines, people no longer want to have a common front. They can't bring the common front to confront the nation frontally on issues that are pulling us down. God bless you, sir.
Thank you so much. All right, so that's why we keep talking about development. A nation that is GDP per capita is dropping is symptomatic of many problems. There's a lot of poverty. How can we fix this? How can we look at possibilities of growth and development? I mean, I think those are cardinal conversations. I'll take a couple of calls more. Then we'll start to also look at more possibilities on the show. I think on this show, I want to start something called an agri scheme. Hello, how are you? I want to start something called an agri scheme. I think, in fact, I started it last week where I said mega farmer, one of our callers, he should call his number out on there and he should coach people on basic steps of agriculture. I also want us to start sort of like an agri bank. I know this might be dicey, and for transparency, sake, I'm not going to put my hand in it because I don't want anything, linked to me. But if there are people that have agri ideas, and you vet them personally, and you want to invest in them, both of you can do the deal via this platform. We'll give you a platform to listen to them. Maybe one day we'll have people pitch about their agri things and agri plans and ideas. And if you are interested, and they'll drop their email addresses or phone number. And if you are interested, definitely you can contact them. So you are going to be the bank. It's going to be crowdfunding bank. It's got nothing to do with me. All we're trying to do is that some people might have the skill, but they might not be able to progress. So how can we give opportunity to people? Like I said, I want people to listen to this show and create wealth. On the former radio station I was, there are people that used to live in uncompleted building. When they listen to my show, they own their own homes because of the transformation that happens to their life from the words they hear. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, sir. Good morning.
Great. What's your name?
My name is Etiman. I'm from Cross River State.
Good to have you. Talk to me, my brother.
Yeah. Particularly, I want to thank you for all the blows and all the bullets you've been receiving on behalf of the Nigerian youth.
Mm,
And before we go the African way, you have been doing a lot.
mm,
And we believe that God will keep giving you the strength and the intelligence to continue raising our flag high.
mm,
And then, secondly, it's about the program, the Africa. I know and I believe for sure that we Africans, by the grace of God Almighty, we are not lacking.
mm,
We have all that it takes, all that it requires us to be a united continent. A strong one in that matter.
mm,
But we lack good leaders.
mm,
People who manage their resources are just they abuse the whole privilege given to them by nature. And they make us look like we are poor, they make us look like we don't have a future, they make us look like we should be more, we are treated like beggars, even with the resources and everything that God gave to us. So please keep sending your messages to them, keep telling them, keep reminding them that the reason why we are silent and why we are reserved is because we don't want to spoil our society. We only want a society where there can good leadership and where ideas can thrive. We have things to say. We have things to order from. Because we don't want to spoil our society. We don't have any other society. We don't have any other Africa apart from this one that we have. And our country, Nigeria. They should be accountable. They should take care of our resources. It is their time. If we pass, we will come in. But they should ensure that the little time they have to do what is right for us, for the future, for every one of us. That is just my contribution. Thank you so very much. And thank you for all the things I've been doing in the right thing.
Thank you.
I am crying and wondering that one day I'll have the opportunity to talk to you face to face. But from far from television, I watch you. Thank you so very much. God will
Thank
give
you.
you more and more that you require.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so much. So, like I just put on my Twitter now, we're starting the agri investment scheme. We started it last week. At first, there are two arms to it. You can get training. All farmers too on this platform, you can join us. If you call us up, we can give out your number. People can come to you for training, or you can even organize, training via your own network. Secondly, what's the second program? Second program is people that are already practicing agriculture that need investments. If you call me up, you can give out your number, or you can also do it on my Twitter page at Roof of the Fire. So you can put your agri ideas and your number there. A possible investor can call you up, but please verify them properly. Agree on a fee, agree on what you are going to pay you in return, your return on investment rate and everything. Then you can make the investments. please, I will just say verify them properly. Like I said, it's not going to involve me. I don't want to house any money because I don't want anything of sort. I don't want my name to be mentioned with anything that has to do with money. We just give it. And most of my schemes that I give people are mostly free. If it's not subsidized learning or free learning, I hardly will do that. And anybody, if you're interested in giving free or great learning, you can call me up so that you can talk here and give out your number and train people for free. It can be via the phone, it can be via Zoom. Hello, how are you?
Morning.
Morning, what's your name?
Mohammed.
What?
From Surrey.
From Surrey. Go ahead, talk to me.
Problem about this Africa is mainly illegal. I don't want the people are also illegal. They're also the people that can solve it are the leader because there's no way everything can be solved. I know the way we are. We all do the same way. But the only person that can solve it is the way that can solve it. They are the leaders. But the leaders are also corrupt. If you look very well, Mali and Niger, the way they are moving. Those are the people that want, those are the leaders that want it for their people. But the leader just, they only think about their pocket. I don't think anything should be done. Except the leaders are okay. They are the one that can enforce law. Okay, do this. If you don't do it, you have to. And if you want the economy to be better, you can always start from the security. Security. Nobody can go to the farm, especially in the north. You can go to the farm and you don't come back home. So those things are the main reason why it's very hard for the economy to be better. But there's no agriculture. There's not even technology. Nothing at all in Africa. That is the main reason why I find that in the next 3 years. But the way it's doing, I don't think it's like very hard.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll keep talking. We'll keep talking. We'll keep talking. So we'll keep talking. We're not going to stop talking. We'll still keep taking a lot of calls. So 2 schemes we've launched. Number 1 is the free AI training. And AI can be used in so many things, even in agriculture. That one is up and running. You can check my Twitter page. I keep announcing them. In fact, I put the update report there yesterday where it shows that over 2,000 people have registered. The cohorts and the classes are on. People are joining and getting their training. Secondly, the Agric one, where anybody interested in Agric can get Agric funding, but please, you have to verify them. And also the training arm. Hello, how are you? Where are you calling from? Eh?
My name is Sunday Uzo. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Okay, go ahead. Talk to us.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sometimes I agree with you, but sometimes I won't.
You are not supposed to agree with me all the time.
One adage in my side. Hello?
Go ahead.
The adage is somebody cannot put all the 4 fingers in the mouth at once.
Mm.
It's not possible. Now, you want the development of Africa. I love that because you want Africa to develop. But let's start from the home. Because my friend said charity must and you must start from home. Nigeria is not a country. One. Nigeria has no constitution. Second.
No, I don't agree with you. Those 2 fallacies are those are things you said are fallacies. Nigeria has a working constitution. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not the time to make noise. I don't like to make noise in arguing. Just hang on a minute. Nigeria has a working constitution. Do you disagree with things? Wait. Let me speak. This is where we're going to get problems. Nigeria has a working constitution. Do you disagree with things in the constitution? Yes, like I do too. I disagree with many things in the constitution, but coming here to lie that Nigeria doesn't have a constitution, that's not true. And you know, I don't take fallacies. So what is a constitution? So the 1999 constitution is not a working document? Is it not a working document? Okay, let me now tell you what you don't know. Nigerian people, wait now. Would you let me speak or not? Would you let me speak? Would you let me speak? Would you let me speak? I'll cut. Would you let me speak? Would you let me speak? Would you let me speak? If you will not let me speak, I'll let you
No,
go.
wait, let
Fine. I don't have arguments where people will not let me speak. Two things. He asked a very valid question. Who wrote the Constitution? I don't believe in when you want to have arguments, you have it intellectually. I've given him a fact. I don't believe in noise making. I believe in facts. I'm a man of facts. Number one, who wrote the Constitution? The 1999 Constitution was written by the Nigerian people. It was a subset of the 1979 Constitution where you had a constituent assembly that met. What they did at the return to democracy was that they reiterated or they removed some parts of the 79 Constitution, which was a subset, which there was a constituent assembly that met to write that 79 Constitution. So because of the fact that it was a return to democracy, and the time was not, on their side, they just took out of that 79 Constitution, iterated some things, and made it a Constitution. So I really get education, not noise. I'm sorry. It is still written by the Nigerian people because they were constituent assembly that met in 79. All right? Secondly, truth has to be said. Do you have a lot of things against the Constitution? Oh, yes, I have a lot of things against the Constitution. But the conversation has been on for a constitutional reform. And those are the facts on ground. I don't deal with sentiments. Because it has not worked does not mean that there's no saving constitution. That's a lie. We use the 1999 constitution as amended. So those are things I will never agree with. I don't agree with opinions and sentiments that are not based on facts. That's just it. All right? That's just it. I don't do sentiments. So the reason why I cut him off was it was just going on and yapping up. You will not let people speak. It's a dialogue, and you can't call my show from me. No, I wasn't trained like that. I was trained to be assertive and on my show. But please, because you hear a lot of these people have a lot of information to deceive people. They say Nigeria doesn't have a constitution. That's not true. Nigeria has a working constitution, which is the 1999 constitution as amended. Are there many things you disagree with that? Yeah, about the things you disagree. But also, Nigeria people wrote that constitution was a subset of the 79 constitution where there was a constituent assembly that people met to write. Did they meet in 1999? No. Because of time and the return to democracy, they took some part off and they iterated that. But it was still a constituent agreement of the people that wrote 79 constitution. Those are the facts on ground. And please, I'm not somebody that lies. You can fact check me. I always deal with the facts. I don't deal with sentiments. Please. We are all complaining about many things wrong in Nigeria, but I will not allow misinformation. Misinformation is somebody coming on this day and saying Nigeria doesn't have a constitution. That's untrue. That's misinformation. There's a 1999 constitution that works. Forget it. Can we change it? Yes. Are many things in the constitution wrong? Yes. Those are facts on ground. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. And please, remember, it's a dialogue. I am the one coordinating things on this end. If I say, please, let me button and you don't give me the chance to button, I'll cut you off. So that's just it. 0818-099-1991. That's just it. 0818-099-1991. And that's one thing I'm totally against. Misinformation of the Nigerian people because it suits your agenda. No, that's not good. That's not good. Nigeria has a constitution. It's a constitution. Still the 1999 constitution. You might not like it. I too, I don't like it. I don't like it. I have a lot of things wrong with it. But for you to say it doesn't happen, it's not working, and there's no constitution on ground, no, that's not true. Hello, how are you? Hello? 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 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. Those are the phone lines to call us upon. 0818-099 1991. Somebody's saying there are constitutions that different analysts come to interpret. I mean, if you call it 1,001 lawyers, they will interpret it in 1,001 different ways. So there's no biggie about analysts interpreting different ways. Hello, how are you? Hello? Zero eight one eight zero nine nine 1991. I'll take my last batch of calls because I have to play that interview with the people from the Rice Research Institute. Hello, how are you? Hello.
Hello.
Hi, morning. How are you? What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello. Okay. 0809919. So somebody's saying here, you see, that's not the problem. Even the best constitution in the world, even the likes of American Constitution, there are still 1,001 analysts that interpret it in 1,001 different ways. Let's not see it as if it's a peculiar problem. No, there's still 1,001 Constitution. When Trump was removed the birth thing, in fact, the American government is trying to change the narrative, and a court has been able to slam Trump by saying, no, you can't do that because there's a hitherto Supreme Court ruling on it. So people will argue either ways to suit their narrative. What we are to do as gatekeepers in the media is to bring you the facts. And that's just what I did. We're bringing you the facts as regards this matter. I will not allow somebody to come on TV, radio, and lie that Nigeria doesn't have a constitution. No, because it suits your narrative. No. Nigeria has a working constitution. Do you have something against the constitution? Yes. As a constitution that allows looting of our wealth, constitution that only allows the worst of us, no, it doesn't lead the rest of you. What allows the worst of you to lead the rest of is corruption in the political process. That's just not your constitution that determines who become your delegates that vote for party candidates that take millions of Nigeria. So it's not the constitution that determines all of that. No. The things that you can, the arguments that have been made about the constitution is whittle down the power of the president. Also, a lot of people are saying give more power to the region. I mean, which are good arguments. But people are also counter-arguing those things that even if you give more power to the regions, with this crop of thieving politicians we have, they'll still steal things. And in fact, even as at then, in 1960s, it wasn't that it was a totally perfect thing. It was because you had leaders that were passionate about growth and development. That's why things worked. You forget that in the 60s, despite the constitution then, you still had people like ministers that were highly corrupt, that were still very wealthy in power. Likes of Festus Okotie became very wealthy in government, which a lot of people still raise eyebrows out. So nothing is perfect. It's just a constant change process that you should ensure that you had the conversation. And when you're having these conversations, it's about making points, and not just talk. Talk is cheap. Rebel rousing is cheap. But points and ideas and facts are empirical and they are timeless. That's just it. It's not by saying, no, Nigeria doesn't have constitution. Who wrote it? No. People, they had a constituent assembly that sat down in 79 to write that constitution. It was a feed-up of the 79 constitution that we have 1999 constitution. That's just it. So you can argue, yes, you don't like some things in it, but saying that Nigeria doesn't have constitution, forget it. Election doesn't work anymore in Nigeria. Election doesn't work because you people too do not come out to vote. So you can blame politicians for rigging, but the question is, what is voter apathy levels? Nigerians don't come out to vote. Even in the last election, it was less than 30% of Nigerians that elected who became president. So where were the remainder of the people that got voters card and everything? They sat down at home. So as you also blame the politicians, also you look inwards. Are you doing your own part? Elections don't work, yes. But did you come out to vote in the last election? No, you didn't bother. Even the last election, a lot of people say, oh, people came out and they voted in mass. Nigeria didn't still come out to vote in the last election. Less than 30% of the population, out of over 90 million people, close to 90 million people on the election register, it was only about 30 million that came out to vote and elect who was president. What about the 60 million people? Where are they? What happened to them? What happened to them? What about the 60 million? What happened to them? Oh, they say because elections don't count. Yeah, really? What about the 60 million? What happened to them? Did you come out and get counted and vote and election didn't count? So if we are blaming the system, what about the ones also we are doing? And these are the mindset change I keep talking about. So what about the remaining people? What happened to them? Out of 90 million people in the election register, only about 30 million came out to. So the fact showed that a lot of. So where was the 60 million people still on that register? What happened to them? Okay, let's say even about 10 million people or are died or something had happened to them. What about 50 million people? So what happened? So these are the questions we should ask ourselves. You know, sometimes we are also not being completely honest with ourselves. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Morning, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mr. Monday from Aditi. Okay, you are being biased for what you are saying.
As in how?
When you are saying people do not come out to masses to vote, you are being biased. It's not safe.
No. So are you going to listen to me? Can I give you facts? Can I give you facts? 90 million people were on the election register. About 30 million people voted in who became leader. Where is the remaining 60 million people? What happened to them?
When the leaders are being chasing people on the polling unit, I don't see it.
But that's no excuse. Where is the remaining 60 million people? At least those people did not even come to the polling units for them to be chased in the first place. The truth is always very difficult. So we get very sentimental. Where is the remaining 60 million people? Yeah, you can make the argument, oh, they knew that the election was going to be rigged, but at least did they show up? You can also make the argument, yes, Oro, they called Oro in Lagos and everything, but did they show up? I mean, those are the questions we should ask. Did they show up? Did they play their part first? So, I mean, let's not bring sentiment into the conversation. Let's say the way it is. God, people came out. People came out, yes. But the statistics showed otherwise. That out of the 90 million people on the ANEC register, it was even about 30 million or less than 30 million people came out to vote in the presidential election. The question I'm just asking, where's the remaining people? You can give every reason that you feel sad about the process, you know it's not going to work and everything, but did people show up? So is it a conversation we can have? And that's why, see, I tell people, you must not agree with me all of the times. If you agree with me all the times, that means you're a zombie. I don't want to breed a crop of zombies. I want to build a crop of critical thinkers that see, yes, sentiments might be cloud of judgment, may not agree with me today, but many years down the line, after you've iterated your thought process, you say, oh, Rufai made the points. So I don't want people. I don't want people to agree with me completely. I don't want a zombie. I don't want. Well, no, I want critical analytical thinking. Just like when I talked about factually incorrect. That's just it. So I want critical thinking. That's what I stand for. Hello, how are you? Hello? Hello? Hello, you're playing my voice back to me. Oh, okay. So that you might say, oh, because the constitution does not work, there's no constitution in Nigeria. Who wrote it? But I've been able to give you empirical facts that people wrote the 79 constitution that was tweaked to become this 999 constitution. People actually wrote it. There was a constituent assembly that met. In fact, I can still mention the names of some of the people. MQ Abiola was part of that constituent assembly.
Good morning, Doc.
Morning, how are you? Bless you.
I'm good. This is Mrs. Kenny. Okay, I'm going to start this way.
Yeah.
I have never voted in Nigeria.
Okay.
And the reason why I never voted is because I am very safety conscious.
Okay.
And I don't trust the security personnel. And I wouldn't stick my neck out for the politicians. I'm just making this public confession. And I'll tell you honestly, I might not vote in a hurry, until the security, in the country becomes, better. That's on one side. So I understand your aggravation, and yeah, people didn't come out. So I'm one of those that didn't come out. I didn't even register. I don't even have a PVC. So I'm a really, very unpatriotic citizen if you look at it from that angle. Now, having said that, I put that aside. And then I want to talk to the president like I typically do from time to time. Mr. President, it's unfortunate that it's in your time that Nigerians have awoken to what is going on in the country. And this is what I'm saying as a Nigerian, full-blooded Nigerian. Enough is enough. It's about time, and now I'm charging you, Mr. President, and all people in the political class, as well as in the power, corridor. Enough is enough of all this. It's stupidity. I'm not wanting to abuse you in any way, but it's about time you all take your pick of place among your contemporaries in the global sphere. And how would you do it? I'll give it for you to juxtapose. In the 80s, we had foreign students in Nigerian university. In the 90s, right down to most recently, we had foreign companies and what would be flourishing in Nigeria. And now we don't. It's about time that you all fast forward the country. We have more than enough to build our country back. Our schools are being mined and taken. All know the people behind it. Enough of this storytelling. We are all adults. And unfortunately for you, a whole lot of Nigerians are in black. And I don't say on the form Nigeria. You all are dealing with world-class, global Nigerians. So get with it and do your job.
Thank you. Last one now. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
What's your name? An interview now. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you that last election, the government of the people will get everything. Like, the people who use it to make sure that they have their place with it, which I think is the yeah, another question is, what the purpose and disease that is destroyed? Who owns this disease? Human materials.
So let's work with data, my brother. INEC has 90 million people. Please listen to me on the register. 90 million people. 90 million people on their voters register. PVC has been issued. You said PVC was destroyed. Okay, let's say 20 million PVCs. I'm being very generous. Was destroyed. But explain to me, wait now, let me finish. Explain to me why the rest people, like the remaining 40 million people, didn't come out to vote. How come out of 90 million people, only about less than 30 million people determine who is going to be president in this country? That's just the question I'm asking. What happened to the rest? A lot of people say they didn't come out to vote because they didn't know the outcome of the elections and everything, and they didn't
station is supposed to inform,
Recently, that people are getting to know about themselves, about their physique. That is women, black women.
educate,
So what you need to do now is go to www.
and also entertain you.
Chapter systems are offline.
Number one for today's hits and all-time favorites.
This is Voice of the People. But wait a minute. When it's time to speak your mind, where do you go? Don't go too far. Here at Voice of the People Radio, VOP 90.3 FM.
But if because people took it seriously in parts like Lagos, urban areas like Lagos, somebody like Peter Obi could beat Tinubu in an election in his home turf. What if more Nigerians came out to vote? It's just a food for thought. I'm not saying there are not problems with the electoral process. Please don't get me wrong. You see, because it's very hard for a lot of Nigerians to process a very nice argument. Once you say something, they think, "Oh, yeah, against." No, 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 no. I'm saying there's problem. There's electoral rigging, voter apathy, and all of that. But if a first-time candidate could come out and at least it could tick the balance. In fact, some people with their conspiracy theories are already saying, Lagos was part of the game and everything and all of that. But the question is, did Peter Obi win, yes or no? What could have happened if people had come out to vote? That's a food for thought for everybody. That's a food for thought for everybody. Let's just think about that. I just like to strike up conversations. We're going to play the interview next for you with the former head of Lake Chad Research Institute. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the show today.
Okay, good to meet you, sir. Please, sir, can you tell me more about?
They were not actually absorbing the fertilizer that they enhance
Mm.
but as a result of this were able to make particular heat tolerant
Mm.
they actually during if you remember during the Babangida regime,
Yeah.
there was a ban on the particular
Mm-hmm.
to promote local production. And that time our production, national production dead and the productivity was less than 1%.
Mm. Mm.
And support was brought to our wheat farm. Productivity increased 2.5 tons per hectare and national production increased to about 350,000 metric within 4 years.
Mm.
But unfortunately, as a result of quality summer same government that banned the importation of same that gifted back and most of our wheat farmers went back to the extent that most of them are no longer
Mm.
then we thank God that when during for the prevention, our not monitor that about develop heat tolerant right? The milk not susceptible but also taking up
Mm.
the nutrients that the fertilizer our productivity that 2.5 during that, at 4 tons. That time, what have been called ESN, with the agricultural certificate, whereby input would be equivalent. Our additional 450,000, but as we are trying to increase the productivity that
So what has now happened since that government took over as
all
regards wheat production in Nigeria?
all the wheat value chain that traditional established, the fish wheat, one of the value chains, they were no longer in existence. That was, in fact, they all collapsed. There was
So
no,
after Akinwumi Adesina left, all the wheat value chain collapsed in Nigeria.
not only the wheat value chain, all the value chains. We have wheat value chains, we have rice, we have maize, we have cassava value chain. Honestly, all collapsed. There was no funding. Nobody talked of any value chain again. But thank God that during Buhari, when Buhari came up, honestly, Buhari launched our wheat production in Kebbi. When Bangu, present minister for budget and was governor, because that time I was also the graduate. So it was launched, and that was how they now divide wheat production. That's how the production was. There were intervention to promote and enhance production. In fact, I thought that within 5 years of that intervention, self-sufficient food production, the professional is develop 111. That is develop 111. Now, these varieties give about 4 to 6 tons per hectare. Just 2 years ago, a woman farmer from Jigawa State got 6 tons per hectare due to this released variety from the research. As I said, these varieties are heat tolerant material that does well in our own environment. Then apart from normal, we also have rain-fed wheat variety. You see, Nigeria is so blessed. We can grow wheat throughout the year. We have irrigated wheat. These two varieties and other varieties I mentioned, they are irrigated wheat varieties. We also have varieties that we have used under rain-fed conditions. Now, where do you grow these wheat under rain-fed conditions? We have some highlands in Nigeria. We have Gembu in Mabla Plateau, in Taraba State. We have Obudu in Cross River State. Then we also have Jos, Plateau State. These three highlands are what we exploit for rain-fed production. Now, the question you ask, why is it that we have not been able to sustain the productivity of
Wheat in Nigeria?
Now, one, I told you of policy summit. Our government has never assisted with policy. Secondly, we do apologize. Some of our leaders did not show enough political will to drive with self-sufficiency. During Sadesi, which was actually founded by the 22 countries in Africa participated in that. Ethiopia, Sudan, and Nigeria were the three hubs for this thing. Ethiopia.
Is wheat sustainable now?
Ethiopia is self-sufficient in
Oh,
wheat
wheat.
production.
Yeah.
They are also exporting wheat.
Ethiopia
Now,
started to export wheat.
Ethiopia is exporting, and we were on the same pedestal before during Sadesi project. Nigeria, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Sudan has reached more than 60% self-sufficiency. With Nigeria, less than 10%. Less than 10%. Because of policy sabotage, because of lack of enough political will. Political will. When national wheat farmers field day is being organized in Ethiopia, you see their president attending the field day. If the president is there, who are you as a governor? That will not be there. But in our own country, telling you, it was only the time of President Buhari that came steady. Then during the time of additional, that he came and witnessed our national wheat farming down. But with all the intervention that we have had in Nigeria, that will have made us self-sufficient. So many.
How much wheat does Nigeria still import as we speak today? Do we lose in foreign exchange to importing wheat?
Wheat consumption. Wheat consumption in Nigeria is about 6 million tons. 6 million tons. Our production declined about 3 years to 150,000 metric tons.
Out of 6 million tons that we consume?
Yes. Just recently, 30 metric tons.
430,000.
Well, 430,000
metric
metric
tons.
tons.
So
You
if
can
we,
see,
if we
you can see the deficit.
So that means Nigeria still imports about
We still import about
5.5 million
5
metric tons. And how much does that cost us in forex?
$4 billion.
$4 billion
$4 billion
every year.
annually.
And this is something we can grow within.
Now, let me just tell you the potential of wheat production. We have 1.2 million hectares of land suitable for wheat production. 1.2 million suitable wheat production. Within the 15 wheat producing states. The Cross River has just joined now. So we have 16 wheat producing states in Nigeria. Now we have the water body. We have the irrigation facility. So that needs to be expanded. The irrigation system needs to be really revitalized. We have the personnel, the scientists. We have the improved varieties that can make us attain good results. But even the research, we need more for research. Recently, that's about 2 years ago, AFD supported me when they wanted to pass this law or not. AFD said, what we don't like, we have what we call national strategic plan for which source of defense. I led that team, use that strategic plan for which source of defense give up ourselves. 10-year development plan, 10 years, and by the grace of God, with this Buhari and President, they have been able to religiously implement that. And that is why you see this now trying to enhance the production of.
If when the government keeps saying we are releasing grains from the National Grain Reserve, do we have enough wheat in the National Grain Reserve?
But let me say honestly, there's an improvement over the past because 2 years 2 years ago, our target was to cultivate 250,000 hectares. 2 years due to lack of seed, we could not meet up with that target. We made the country. But this is we targeted the same 250,000 hectares. We did not import any seed. Seed produced local that use
Yes.
like 2 years ago when we have to import wheat seed to Nigeria.
Recently, the president was talking about cultivating 10 million hectares of arable land. How can wheat play an important role in blocking this food deficit in Nigeria?
Yes, sir. So, number one, we need political will. That's political will is essential. 2, consistent policy. And not only of even the policy system. Then 3, funding. We need to fund research. We need to support the farmers. We need to support the farmers. If all these things are done, honestly, I assure you, there is no crop that Nigeria cannot. We have the fertile land. We have the water. I stayed in Maiduguri for no stay for 9 years. We have a special soil for no state. That's a special soil than any other state in Nigeria. And what is that soil? It's called Vati soil. Vati soil. Very rich in organic materials. In fact, when we grow our wheat in Maiduguri, under research, we got up to 7 to 8 tons per hectare. And farmers got about 5 tons in Maiduguri because of the special soil we have.
So tell me about this your program.
Actually, there are several players in the wheat partnership. We have the EFMA, Flour Milling Association of Nigeria. These are the off-takers of Nigeria. The mill has tested this. Another CBI now invited all the players in the wheat partnership to CBI to come and discuss the challenges of and the quality of the honestly, that was where Flour came up with their own report. They have tested the Nigeria wheat has better quality of protein than the protein. The only snag, the only challenge they mentioned was that the gluten content of our Nigeria wheat is lower than the protein. And then they asked me the question. I said, yes, that is a plus. Because if the gluten content in wheat is high, there is a disease called celiac disease. Celiac disease that can lead to high blood pressure and inflammation. So that protein, if it's high content of that disease.
Makes you bloat.
Yeah, thank you. So high. So our wheat is but because what is the importance of that protein? It's the protein that makes bread.
Right.
So if you see bread that is flattened, the protein content is very
Mm. Which is a good thing.
yes, which is a good thing. So now they say that but we can still help the farmer
Mm.
to make sure that bread.
Mm.
And how do we do that? We increase the urea fertilizer we apply. We apply
Mm.
for the crop.
Mm.
We increase it.
Mm.
But to the level that it will not because of the getting
Mm.
the woman.
Mm.
So we did that. And now we have tried it. Fortunately also, this new variety,
Mm. Mm.
was tested by them
Mm.
and they have said it's very good
Mm.
for bread making.
Mm.
That is why we are now taking. In fact, we held a national wheat farmers meeting in Kano on Sham John
Mm.
came.
Mm.
That's why he made the announcement that all the wheat produced locally here is taken by the farm until today.
Yeah, I've taken it.
So we don't have there's already market.
So what has now happened since that government took over
All
as regards wheat production in Nigeria?
all the wheat value chains that traditional established, in which wheat was one of the value chains, they were no longer in existence. That was, in fact, they all collapsed. There was
So
no,
after Akinwumi Adesina left, all the wheat value chain collapsed in Nigeria.
not only the wheat value chain, even all the value chains. We have wheat value chain, we have rice, we have maize, we have cassava value chain. Honestly, all collapsed. There was no funding. Nobody talk of any value chain again. But thank God that during Buhari, when Buhari came on board, honestly, Buhari launched our wheat production in Kebbi State. In Kebbi State, when Bangudu, the present Minister for Budget and Planning, was the governor of Kebbi State. Because that time I was also the one driving wheat for this country. So it was launched, and that was how they now revived the wheat production. That's how the wheat production was revived. There were interventions from Nigeria government to promote and enhance wheat production. In fact, I thought that within 5 years of that intervention, Nigeria should be able to attain at least 50 to 70% self-sufficiency in wheat production. But unfortunately, that deal was not realized because of policy somersault. We have the good materials because we have partners in Summit and ICADA. These are international research institutes that have the mandate for the genetic improvement of wheat globally. And we collaborate with them. We used to get germplasm materials from them, and we screen them for our own adaptability to Nigeria condition. And we have released more than 15 wheat varieties in this country.
So Nigeria has more than 15 different wheat varieties
released.
From and because as your work as director of Lake Shad Research Institute.
Yes.
So 15 different varieties. Can you tell us some of these varieties and how easy is it to grow them as we speak?
Okay, sir. One, we released Attila Ganatila. We released Norman. Just about 2 years ago, we released Bullock 111. That is Bullock 111. Now, these varieties gives about 4 to 6 tons per hectare. Just 2 years ago, a woman farmer from Jigawa State got 6 tons per hectare of wheat.
due to this release variety from Lecture Research Institute. As I said, these varieties are heat-tolerant materials that does well in our own environment. Then apart from normal, we also have rain-fed wheat varieties. You see, Nigeria is so blessed. We can grow wheat throughout the year. We have the irrigated wheat. These two varieties and other varieties I mentioned to you, they are irrigated wheat varieties. We also have varieties that we have released under rain-fed conditions. Now, where do you grow this wheat under rain-fed conditions? We have some highlands in Nigeria. We have Gembu in Mabla Plateau, in Taraba State. We have Obudu in Cross River State. Then we also have Jos, Plateau State. These three highlands are what we exploit for rain-fed wheat production. Now, the question you ask, why is it that we have not been able to sustain the productivity of wheat in Nigeria? Now, one, I told you of policy somersault. Our government has never been consistent with policies. Secondly, with due apology, some of our leaders did not show enough political will to drive with self-sufficiency in this country. During SADC project, which was actually funded by AFDB, 22 countries in Africa participated in that project. Ethiopia, Sudan, and Nigeria were the three hubs for this project. Ethiopia
is wheat sustainable now?
Ethiopia is self-sufficient in wheat production. They are also exporting wheat.
Ethiopia started to export wheat.
Ethiopia is exporting wheat. And we were on the same pedestal before, during SADC project. Nigeria, Sudan, and Ethiopia. Sudan has reached more than 60% self-sufficiency in wheat production. Nigeria, less than 10%. Less than 10% because of policy somersault, because of lack of enough political will. Political will. When National Wheat Farmers Field Day is being organized in Ethiopia, you see their president attending the field day. If the president is there, who are you as a governor that will not be there? But in our own country, I'm telling you, it was only the time of President Buhari that he came to Kebbi. Then during the time of additional, that he came and witnessed our National Wheat Farmers Field Day in Kadawa. But with all the interventions that we have had in Nigeria, that will have made us to be self-sufficient in wheat production, honestly, we have so many challenges.
How much wheat does Nigeria still import as we speak today? What do we lose in foreign exchange to importing wheat?
Our national wheat consumption, wheat consumption in Nigeria is about 6 million tons. 6 million tons. Our production declined about 3 years ago to 150,000 metric tons.
Out of 6 million tons that we consume?
Yes. Just recently, with these interventions from this present government, from Buhari's government and this present government, we have been able to increase our production to 430 metric tons.
430,000?
430,000 metric tons.
So if
you can see the deficit.
So that means that.
Welcome to Something Nice with Dinano. We are back with a channel favorite, Ubaba Ujoshua Marara Mapong. Welcome, Baba Mapong.
Thank you. How has been going so far?
It's good. And I've spoken to you. From the inception, you are responsible for the growth that we have seen on the channel. I'll also take some credit because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
The interview we had with you 3 years ago, 2021, I think it was just after lockdown.
COVID days.
Yes. It's now at 1.1 million views. It's the biggest viewership for Joshua Maponga something on YouTube. Thank you.
Wow.
Now I'm going to sound like Snoop Dogg. I want to also thank myself. But most importantly, you.
Give yourself some flowers.
At home who has been supporting the channel. I posted something yesterday saying we are hosting Ubaba Maponga again. Someone said they've been listening on one of the audio channels. A lot of people have been commenting. And common amongst the comments are questions about this book. We spoke off air. We have agreed that we will do something about the book. I will support Farmers of Thought. And by doing so, we will get people to win the books on the channel.
Thank you.
How have you been? Before my intros are somehow very long, but I am going to ask us to be serious about this question. I once called a friend, speaking is closer, my brother Unjan. His response is, are you really interested in knowing, or we are buza nje kuba uqhela ubuza? Do you ask just because you are used to asking? Let me ask in a serious way. Unjani Babu Mapong?
I am not okay. I'm not okay as an old man driving the bus. Where is this bus taking us to? Are the people in the bus in agreement that this is where we want to go, whether politically or health-wise or education or socially or culturally, or the global conversation that they're talking about, that this is where Africa needs to be, in the global village? And I've asked the question, who will be the king in that village? Who will be the policeman in that village? What religion will be in that village? How are we going to bear our children in that village? What will be our women be in that village? What will be the men be? But when I look at America and I look at Europe, at their idea of what a village looks like, where you're no longer him or you're she, you're no longer it or that, you are no longer. And I'm wondering, does this all-inclusive Africa village, global village, has to do with extinguishing the African spirit? Because ultimately the global village has very little of the African in it. It's about the global culture that is being built. And there's nothing called global culture. Let's be clear. It's American culture. It's European culture. And while we are being dragged here on a leash to join this global village, so he said, how am I? I'm not okay. Because I see our politics, our health, our education, our business, our entertainment, our spirituality, our agriculture, all of it slowly being eaten away into this plastic, synthetic, genetically modified culture, genetically modified religion, genetically modified spirituality, genetically modified education, genetically modified governance. And I wonder, as I sit here in my mature mind, I'm no longer a young man, in my mature mind, and you ask me, how am I? I'm not fine. Because I don't think we have the right drivers for the bus. I don't think we're even on the right bus. And I'm not sure that the destination is where I want to leave my children to go to.
I know you are a philosopher. And sometimes one needs to be awake when you speak. You say you are not well because of all these things you are mentioning. But somehow I feel like you are not well because Africa is not well. We are where we are. We are not well. As a people, we are not well. As the land, we are not well. In every aspect you may think of. You've been traveling around the continent, around the land. You've been meeting with different people from different spaces, different tribes, different understandings of who we are. What conversations are you having? How do we get to realize this Africa that will make you be well?
To be very precise, in my unwellness, there is a glimpse of light that gives me some excitement. It is this great awakening that is happening around the continent. You don't need to go very far. Go on any social media platform and just scroll 3 times, if not twice. The third article you're going to be meeting is something to say about what Africans are, what we must be doing, and etc. And it's like a nation that has been sleeping for almost 400 years. And in a typical example where you are waking up from your sleep, and so especially if someone shakes you out of your sleep, in a nice deep sleep, and someone comes, hey, Dali, wake up. First thing is that your ears have heard what has been spoken. So first thing, you're going to open up your eyes. But when you open up your eyes, your mind is not where your eyes and body are, because it was somewhere very far. So in every immediate wake up, there is this disillusionment of some sort, which in some certain cases, it takes seconds to move from where the mind had taken you to and your sleep had taken you to where you are. And when you finally arrive here, you quickly want to scan the place, and your eyes will assist you to see, where am I and what is happening? Is there danger and what? So in as much as they're asking you, there are other issues of priority that are already running through your mind. When your eyes have confirmed you're safe, there's no gun, then you look at the person and the similar process is happening to Africa. As we waking up from this slumber to realize our environment, to size up our friends. Am I still in the same bed? Is my wife here? Are the children here? Is the house not on fire? What's the emergency all about? And this awakening warms my heart, because for the first time we are starting to win off the issues of the night and coming into the day. And the other day I put a poster out and someone says, I don't blame the Africans, Bishop. They still call me Bishop, by the way. Don't blame the Africans, Bishop. Blame it on COVID, the vaccination, and that maybe they have metals that have been pushed into our system. Some of it is actually causing a slight slumber, and particularly to our educated community, which gets so knowledgeable about them and so uneducated about themselves and where they are coming from. And then we find that the whole academic space is built to protect the very colonial system that has oppressed us this long. And I think we are in a very exciting moment of Africans' history, where as a generation, we will witness in our generation a start off of a meaningful transformation towards an Afro-centered kind of understanding. And I think for today, if you tap on me nicely, we may just be able to assist others like ourselves. You brought up an Adventist. I am brought up an Adventist. 3rd generation Adventist, so to speak. Grandfather, father, uncles.
I'm fourth.
Lucky you. And
let me brag a bit. My great-grandfather, Richard Moko, is the first ordained Adventist pastor in Africa. Richard Moko. But somehow, somewhere else, he might be known as Muku. There are so many things you say, and I want to give you time to speak. You say we grew up Adventist, 3rd generation, 4th generation. But we are waking up from our slumber. We are seeing the issues within Adventism. We are seeing the issues within a Western education system. We are seeing issues within Western democratic processes. We are seeing issues in a lot of things. There's a movement of decolonialism. I don't know what it means. I don't know if you understand, but somehow I've heard that you happen to be part of that system that's trying to break down these walls that impede us from seeing greater things that we can achieve as African people. I don't know. We are in a constant transition. We are waking up.
Let me make it simpler for you, without being laborious in words. This is your house. And whatever happens in this house, someone must knock at your door.
Yes.
You give them access. You write the rules in this house. What time does the gate close? Madam helps you.
Yeah.
To put that order into your estate. So there's order. And what we are asking for as Africans is that the narrative, I gave you the bus illustration, the narrative that we are talking about as Africans, the question is, are we accountable? Are we responsible? Are we in charge not only of our children, our husbands, our wives, our land, our education, our entertainment, our commerce and business, our health? Are these elements that we speak about extensively, which affect our very livelihood, are they within our own means of power? Do we have control? Are we in charge? Right now, can you say as a father that you are in charge of the curriculum that your daughter is studying at school?
I am not.
And I'm hearing the other day, the staff there to pay your medical aid. You have no power of what goes on in your policies of land and etc. Yet you are paying for a conversation, and he is a footnote on the paper, a conversation, and he is a footnote on the way he's supposed to be the subject. He appears somewhere at the bottom there. Somewhere at the bottom there as a means of reference. Oh, by the way, we're in Africa, and what are these Africans? And when you hear even our politicians talking about Africans, they're not human beings. They're the indigent, the poorest of the poor, the disadvantaged. And you listen to this and says, how do you then ask us as the poorest of the poor, and yet power relies with us? You want us to vote for you, but immediately you have a time to write a speech and speak about Africa. You're not addressing us as the prime citizens of your existence as a leader.
You first have to address the market or appease
the market is the poorest of the poor. Listen, Google, put a clip, 6, 7, 10 people, politicians talking, and all of them you hear them mentioning the indigent, the unbankable, the poorest of the poor. These are the Africans. And yet these are the stakeholders, the owners of the very narrative that you're talking about. So even our politics does not respect these people. They only come for votes.
I like the analogy of being in the state of waking
within the present space which has been taking advantage of you. And I think the colonial system is a bit agitated, and through religion, business, and political systems, they're trying by all means to make sure that a group of black people don't wake up as fast before they smuggle as much as they want to their own corner. And truly so, because life is about making profit. So it should be understood that as Malcolm X and Martin Luther put it, that freedom will never be donated by those who are oppressing you. The one who is oppressed needs to take it, if not possible, take it by force. Because it's comfortable to have a slave and have a servant and have people that you can just click your finger and they run. And one morning you wake up and your slave say, oh, sorry, sir. Actually, you are the slave. I'm not the slave. Yes, so it is economically challenging to see the African wake up. It will cost the colonial system quite some money. It will cost our academic institutions quite some money. It will cost our pharmaceutical organization, and COVID did us the best of all favors. When all of a sudden the African who was supposed to collapse and die, bayemfuleni mfethu bayofuna umhlonyana bashaya ama-Vicks bayenza into zazo zakwadeni, and there we are. Here we are, healthy and well. And how do you think the pharmaceutical company that had calculated a 3-5 billion profit on selling these vaccines, and they discover Africans don't need as much of them as they do?
For some reason, I'm not a scientist. I've been fighting with people on these platforms on the issue of COVID. Fought with a doctor from my church from back home. But before we did the interview, you asked for some time to be in the sun. If you remember, before COVID started, they had said Africa would be the hardest hit. Somehow, Africa was the least hit by this thing. Is it the sun? Is it because we spend a lot of our time out there? This is not a structured conversation. It's going to be all over the place. But
Our melanated skin and the abundance of vitamin D happy. And you cannot hear that we want clean water. You can't hear that. And 60% of South African water is in white farmers. We want land. You can't hear that. We want true freedom. You can't hear that. We want to own the banks. You can't hear that. We want to own insurance companies. You can't hear that. We want to own universities. You can't hear that. Then what happens is that what one generation fails to hear through their ears, the next generation will hear through their skin. And white people will be foolish to leave their children and grandchildren with these issues unresolved. You can hold on to those farms, enjoy it. But I can tell you, Dali, I can tell you, one generation, these children of yours, will wake up, who will ask, who is Mandela? Who is O.R. Tambo? Who is Gavin Beck? And they don't know them. And their question is simple, where is our land? They will butcher these white kids like sardines. And it will happen because one generation did not hear the conversation of the luminaries who are saying, hey, Buffett,
point us to the African approach when it comes to our issues, our problems, and just how we should navigate through life. There's a very nice illustration that you like with a stick. You don't have that stick, you've got a bigger stick. I don't know if this one is
I can still use
goes beyond that one.
Yes.
Okay, I think it will be visible in that wide camera.
I can still use this one.
Okay.
I can still use this one. For the purposes of the conversation, I'll make this one 1, the white part. I'll make this one 2, the brown part. I'll make this one 3. And I'll make this one 4, the silver part at the end. So let's call this the east. Let's call this the south. Let's call this the north. And let's call this the west.
Okay.
So the west,
south, northwest.
So then the west is holding us by our heads in terms of the quality of our thinking.
So fitting, the color.
And white. The north, with their industrialization and legacies of the historicity of colonization. And a beautiful part here, it is the south, which is the great woman, the birth of all mankind. And this is the east with their technology, the silver part. So we can still work on this.
It does look it.
And I think so. China is producing the machinery, the cars, the cell phones, and
all the things we aspire,
all the
materials.
Yes. And Africa is the great mother, the mother of mankind, our Kebalan, in her fullness, at the center of it, and the greatest part, and the historical part of ourselves. Then the north, and then the west. Now, when you process this, I call this a benchmarking tool, because it's telling you to think globally and act locally. You need to understand, how are they thinking in the west? How are they thinking in the north? How are we thinking in the south? How are they thinking in the east? Who is the God in the east? Who is the God in the south? Who is the God in the north? Who is the God in the west? What are their medicines? What are their medicines? What are their medicines? What are their medicines? Who owns land in the east? Who owns land in Africa? Who owns land in the north? Who owns land in the... What are they educating their children with? What are they? So you could actually take any subject and sit in a park by yourself and process 1,000 thoughts. Pick a subject. Could be fashion,
religion.
Could be weddings. Could be religion.
I love religion. Our audience loves religion.
Could be health and technology. Could be anything. And then before you even go very far, and you get yourself. And many of the young people who watch me, and I don't think they've been able to upgrade their software to think with me. Before you even start asking and arguing about, as Africans, think globally. What are they doing in the East? What are we doing in the South? What are they doing in the North? What are they doing in the... What is their democratic system? Governance. Agriculture. Education.
Are you saying this is why we keep trying to wake up and be, because we are not being who we are?
The very system that we are dealing with, which was built to stay, already comes with those structures. And I wish people can go to my next book that I've actually done, entitled African Questions and African Solutions.
Okay, we only have 2 here so far.
I have the third one that is now available, called African Questions and African Solutions. And in those, in that volume now, I begin to work at the 7 pillars of the structure of colonization and how the African can now work around that. So that we need to understand the system, we need to understand the monster, and then we see how best can we navigate ourselves to restructuring it or creating parallel systems that can then create an African sustainable Africa that we want. How is it governed? How is it educated? How is it entertained? How does it treat itself?
Give us some bites, some nuggets from questions and answers
for African questions and African solutions. We pick up those 7 pillars and look at the colonial system coming to colonize the African people. And then we ask ourselves the basic questions. What are they bringing with them when they are colonizing Africa? So they colonize you, and let me say this one, it will be painful, but I'll say it. Are you aware that actually the African liberated the white man?
No.
I'll explain, please. Because it's us, Africans, who bring independence.
In what way?
We fight for it. Like in South Africa, like in Zimbabwe, like in Namibia. We fight for it. And after we fight for it, we liberate even the white man from his own bigotry. He was not able to live freely in a country where he was in power until the African fights him on his system and liberate him from his own mindset. The South Africans right now, the white South Africans who are here, are even worried. Why did we fight so much when what all black people wanted was just Zama and Spazas. We did not need to go through that 90-year battle because Africans did not want more. But the question is, did the African not want more because he had more, or the African knew that he could have much more, but he only asked for less?
That's a question.
So here we are, saying we are free and we are independent in South Africa, but we know the monster, the elephant in the room. DA cannot talk about that. ANC cannot talk about that. PA cannot talk about that. Action SA cannot talk about
it. Maponga and Something Nice with Dinano are here to talk about it. Let's talk about
that. Is land. That is land.
You make so many connections to how the land gives us a lot. You've said somewhere that it is very important for you to sometimes just take off your shoes. Go there.
Mamela Mchana, Minister of Agriculture is land. Minister of Housing is land. Minister of Water is land. Minister of Tourism is forestation is land. Minister of Mining is land. Minister of Power and Energy is land. Now tell me, which ministry have I left out? Minister of Sports and Entertainment is land. We're going to put the stadiums in the sky. So you cannot even begin to talk about a government that does not have land. Because without land, go home. Because whoever owns the land owns the politics.
We are talking, Baba Mapong. There were ones before us who were talking. Now I'm getting tired of talking. I'm on a podcast. We talk because we're trying to bring these solutions. Can we move past talking? What are some of the solutions you speak to in African questions and solutions? I don't know. Maybe I could.
Where does the wind blow from? Where are the resources? By the time you see a general walking out from that room with a date when the first strike will now, what if they poison those farms? What are they going to have? What if they poison those farms? What are they going to have? Another 150 years of resuscitating the ground. So the thinking for me is important. Your health systems, you're all depending on pharmaceuticals and tablets, which they're giving you to drink for crying out loud. And so when we talk about talking, is not just a cosmetic thing. We hope that we can begin to develop African leadership that can eat into the system, create parallel systems of agriculture, indigenous agriculture and food, indigenous healing methods. Start going back to your rural homes, drink up your own bowls, feed your own water. And unless we think through the system, I'll be stupid as a leader amongst your generation to tell the young people, let's go and fight. And I know I'm leading all of you to a death ward. You are not ready.
Do we have such leaders? You keep talking about leadership. Do we have such leaders that we can trust to take us through this strategy and tactics of war?
We lost we had leaders, but we lost leadership, particularly in South Africa in 1994. Because I think in 1994, the white man was ready to be pushed out of power, and they did not have enough time to strategize and clean up. We lost the plot. We went into lots of talks, went into lots of poems, went into lots of conversations,
songs. South Africa,
oh, we love you. And now the enemy that we had 20 years ago has metamorphosed.
Yeah. Metamorphosis has changed.
His metamorphosis developed into another monster. And for your own information, Afrikaner and white people train their children how to use guns every weekend. All these farms in Rustenburg, Ventersdorp, Potchefstroom and what. And Orania is a culmination space that tells us that we can do what we want in your country. And if Orania is allowed in South Africa, then why are you stopping KwaZulu-Natal?
It's become a bargaining tool for the Freedom Front Plus, by the way, in their negotiations on the
so if Chief and the King Mrs. Zulu says, I want KwaZulu-Natal as another Orania, do you have a problem as South Africans? Because when a white man does it, it's self-determination. When a Zulu man does it, it's tribalism.
If it's white, it's right.
If it's white, it's self-determination. It's preservation of the Afrikaner culture, which is being threatened in South Africa. So apparently the Afrikaners are the only ones who have a right of preserving. If Ciskei,
where I'm from,
they say we also are tired of this Urania thing, we also want our Cis Urania in Ciskei. And KwaZulu says we want ours. Mujaji says I want mine. Venda says I want mine. And Putatswana says I want. So maybe the tribal homesteads, the homelands that we destroyed during 1994, maybe Orania has just come back to tell us that it was not such a bad idea at all. Then Venda, collect your resources there, develop yourself as much. And this is what the educated South African does not want to talk about. You cannot be dealing with white people with silver and cotton gloves and then they deal with each other with arrogance.
How do you organize ourselves? Now we're going back to history because I think it's important that if we want to move forward, let's understand where we come from. How did we organize ourselves as Intlanga? I don't want to say tribes. It's this way. Clans, back in the day. Did we separate? Would Matsonga would AmaXhosa, would AmaZulu be in their own enclaves and not want to be part of
We needed
clans?
to appreciate, number one, that we throw away all the borders. Just firstly, before we even go into that thing, we just need to pull out that. And I put a status this morning that I said, how can 10, 15 men in the Berlin conference, the Congo conference, make a decision which 54 presidents and 1.2 billion people cannot reverse? No, 10 people with Leopold as the chairman. They sit around and they make a ruling of how Africa will be divided. And right now we have 54 presidents. They've never met.
Very evil man, but somehow no one says a lot about Leopold, but we always hear about Hitler. Leopold, who massacred people in the DRC, cut off their hands.
Judge Hlophe said something that was very interesting. Judge Hlophe, what makes the Jews more resilient than Africans is that the Jews every day, 3 times a day,
I saw that.
like medication.
They remind their kids.
Like medication,
Sometimes 2 times.
Sometimes even before you go to sleep, they will always remind themselves who are their enemies.
And their children.
And then only don't just talk about their enemies. They also talk about how their enemies must pay. To date, Germany owes
Namibia.
No, not Namibia. Owes Israel.
Oh, yes.
They owe them money. They are paying those billions of dollars.
They also owe Namibia.
They've not even started talking about it. Germany is actually running around that. They owe Zimbabwe also. They killed 18 of our kings that right now are being used as trophies in British museums.
England owes us. Oh, Inza.
So when you look at our history, if our history does not tell our story, if our history is not our history, it is his
Someone's
story.
His story.
Then constantly we're going to be remaining thinking that these people are our friends. When DA and the ANC come together, South Africans feel like, no, it's progress. It's a better thing for us to do. But hey, man, just look at your enemy. They've changed clothes, but they're still the same.
I always ask, can we have unity without equality?
There's no unity without sovereignty. There's no unity without respect. True unity and independence. Independence must not be dependence. Independence must be sovereignty, where each one of us. I'm coming back to your question, where you're asking, how did we organize ourselves?
Yes.
We organized ourselves because within the Xhosa, bo Sahile, bo Khakhabe, bo Hintsa, they knew that amongst them,
Sandy,
bakhona Ojanji, bakhona o Mabele, bakhona o Dlamini, bakhona Obani, and each one of these houses were linked up to the great royal house. You come to the Zulu, which became the great empire that Shaka built, but within the Zulu, Upungane ukhona, Ushezi ukhona, Umyeni ukhona, Unyambose ukhona, and they made up this royal house. And even in the royal sitting itself, you find that each one of those clans is actually represented. Same thing to the Shona and the Karanga tribes. The Kalangas, you will actually have the royal house, but that is attached. But in many cases, like in the ancient Karanga tribes, Vushema Zoro, meaning that royalty we share. So in this season, it is the Shumbas running. In another season, it is the Mukanyas running. In another season, it is the Shou running. In another season, then here and there you find greediness, where one family says, no, we cannot share power. Then wars would break out on that. So we had a communal consultative model, where the entire community sat at Likhotla. And each one of us, I love the Uganda of 60 clans, and each one of them is linked to the Waganda kingdom. Others, their job is simply to make the cloth for the royal house. Others are responsible for the food of the king. They are farmers. Others are responsible for the cattle and the skins for the king. Others are responsible for the lands of the king, so that you don't have a useless tribe within the kingdom. Each one of them, and there's such skills development within those clan settings. have to do with developing the very skill. So you find that if you want the best headsmen, if you want the best tailors, if you want the best medicine people, if you want the best childbirth, whatever.
Yeah.
So each clan develops itself and its children. So you cannot wake up in the morning and say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
You know what your trade
You
or your
already
specialty
have
is.
purpose. Your purpose is written in your DNA of your history. Understand your history, and you don't have to look for a profession. You already, with the kings themselves. We are the kings of the great, with the kings themselves. We are the kings of the great Monumtaba Empire. So, and knowing yourself, therefore, is not counting your fingers. It's learning the tombstones of your grandfathers and your ancestors, and know what skills were embedded in them. Those very same skills flow in your bloodlines.
So we come together in these likhutlas. I don't know if we still have think tanks. We come together in these likhutlas. We identify and we know our strengths. And we go out and we know our strengths. And we go out to get towards a common cause.
The nation. That's the nation building. Even in some certain spaces, you find that there are some tribes that produce warriors. Just these are the swordsmen who it's inbuilt. Then you find others that were actually the voodoo and magicians.
Cooking stuff,
cooking things, and you call these people they will build your resilience, your medicine.
I want to go to this thing of cooking thing. You know, I always go back to where we come from as Adventists. Some of us grew up not even believing those things. Well, there are mayas, we know.
But
But I want to go to a recent incident that happened to me. Yeah, at FNB. I was working there last year, November 4th. My car got jammed. But in the police statement, I was so sure that I saw a white Corolla. I wrote it down. Luckily for me, I managed to find footage because I was parked to one of these Vumatel cameras.
Someone knocked your car?
No. They jammed the car and they got access. Diamba no makulubam. I am with my grandmothers. No kokobam. My great grandparents. There's nothing you can do to me. Try me. And then it goes on. I was saying to you, I don't believe in walking with ancestors and all these things. But some...
This is the genitalia of the woman.
Yes.
That it gives us access. So when you begin to understand... This is the genitalia of the woman.
Yes.
That it gives us access. So when you begin to understand and the as a song, it's not just a song. And this, unfortunately for Christianity, you don't know this, but your doctors know that. That's why they ask you, do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Because they actually understand that if there were sicknesses or diseases, abnormalities and challenges that were in your ancestral line, they could have filtered themselves.
So for real.
Even the,
you are not alone.
Even the hair falling off on your head. There is someone here who had that.
That I'm cool.
The nose that you have.
Yes.
There is someone. If we were lucky to resurrect your ancestors, maybe just 2-3 generations, and queue them over there, Otatomkulu and their brothers and their uncles and their aunties, are you aware that we actually look at all of them and see pieces of yourself?
You know, we take pride in these things. I guess it's us being human. A friend of mine saw a picture of my daughter, and she was like, "Yay, ilampumlo yakwame good." You know, you hear it and you're like, yeah. You know.
For some of us,
assurance.
You can't miss this.
Okay.
You can't miss this. You can't miss this big blacksmith's hand.
Yes.
It's a trademark.
Yeah.
So that when we say and camping there, we are saying for you to be here. That's why in Zulu we greet and say, Sawubona.
Oh, you are going to somewhere now.
And ndiyakubona. Ndithi sanibonani. Nibaninzi kaloku. Ndibulisa wena nezinyanya zokwenu nabogogo nabomkhulu nesende abuphuma kulona kwamama nakwababa. Ndibulisa bonke who have contributed. I greet all of them.
Why does this make us uncomfortable as Christians? Why don't we want to delve into who we are? Who we are is not who we are here. Who we are is where we come from and those that brought us here.
And we are here, we are Dali, not to be massaging colonial.
You keep calling me Dali.
Dini lenje.
Dini lohlanga. That's my name. Very deep.
Dini lohlanga.
Yes, sir.
Masibheka pha ku Matthew chapter 1. Matthew does not mix his words when he gives us the genealogy of the Messiah. I don't even want to go back into that history, which I could do laboriously. I want us to come to a man who is blind by the name of Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus comes to Yahshua, and he says, Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. I'm a theologian. David is in power. He says, is there anyone from the house of Saul that I can show mercy to? And they looked around and they found Mephibosheth, broken legs on his crutches. And the black book says, and he ate on the table of David all the rest of his lives. And when Bartimaeus calls on Jesus, he does not address him in his mental state in the present. He addresses him in the psychology of his genes, his ancestors. Akabizi uYesu, ubizi uDavid, ophakathi kukaYesu athi nyana kaDavid awundivele ufefe. Even if in your body you don't feel like doing it, but the ancestors that were here before you got here, they have done this thing. So dig in yourself and find healing for me. Now, when you don't understand why sometimes we behave the way we behave, we become good, we become compassionate, we become loving, we become kind, even when common sense does not allow. And sometimes even some of us, I wonder, how did I do that? Why did I do that? I didn't have to do that. But ikona lento engakuwe ethi ngabona umuntu ohlukumezekile, ubona umuntu ongaphathekanga kakuhle, and your ancestors were once in this space, and through ancestral memory you can connect to that pain. It evokes something in you and causes you to do something that at the end of the day we go, did I do that? Yes, you did it, but not that you thought about doing it, but because your system and your body is actually moving.
You're making me emotional.
No, we are not just ourselves. As we behave as ourselves, we also be, even when it comes to marriages or relationships, what makes you find this person to be the right partner for you? It's only that we are not privileged with information. If you could look into them and find out what features do they have that speak to you. In some certain cases, you'd even be shocked if I can tell you on your boots that the person you are staying with, you met each other at another time, at another place, at another environment, at another timeline. And here you are again talking together as husband and wife in the present.
Where are you getting this? I want to call it knowledge, but because of my background, I keep going back to my background. I won't call it knowledge. Where are you getting this information? Because it's not information that I have understanding of, because of my upbringing in the Adventist church, which we both grew up in.
You are the one who is evoking me to talk, so I will do downloads for you, even in the present. I don't have to shake my head. I don't have to go that route. You can be spiritually connected without manifesting things. So yes, you will be able, when you sit down and you listen to your spirit and conscience, that your mind and spirit can actually lead you into the archive of information, which I'm now able to do, unfortunately.
Why is it unfortunate?
Because it sounds funny, unless your spirit picks it up, like you have. And then you notice, no, man, this is no longer ordinary data. This is not book information. This is
You know, I'm going to put my father on the spot here. I've said this to him. When I was growing up, I think I was about around the age of 5. I don't know if I would call them hallucinations, but to also protect him amongst the believers. I think he only accepted Christ around 1986. But I remember, I think this incident of mine happened around 1985. I was taken to a woman, I would call her a so-called colored woman, in somewhere there where we live, a place called Breitbach. I remember the incident. I was quite young. And then I was given something like a pillow that I was supposed to wear here. This thing had a very strong camphor smell. You know camphor, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what camphor does. I've recently asked my dad about it. So like, what was that all about? Guess toss about wow no more. Now, on my mother's side of the family, there was this old lady. About, you know, they talk, but why that? And mama wayentanda. I won't say how she used to call me, but she used to call me, she used to put me on her lap. I don't know if it was that thing, but I always go back to that moment. And I know the intervention that my parents took is not an intervention that they would have probably taken today. And I always ask myself, why? And somehow after that incident, I don't remember ever having this thing. So I asked Tata explained it in such a way that no, Bunomoya and that woman, I don't know, she could put together some things.
So this was a detailed sort of thing to protect you. Life is not as physical as we deem it to be. Life is dimensions of mental interactions, emotional interactions, physical interactions. But I think very little is known about the spiritual interactions. But as we close our eyes every night, we all move away from the mind. We all move away from the body, both Christian and non-Christian. We all move away from the emotion. We all move into spaces which are totally spiritual. Some people have eaten there and they've vomited this side. Some people have been beaten by snakes there and they've woken up with scars on their bodies. Some people have been initiated there and they've come back here as totally different creatures. Some people, by the way, have died there and they didn't come back in the morning. So when you begin to speak about issues of reality, the reality is not only what we are experiencing right now. There are more dimensions of reality, even beyond what we can process. And for parents in our traditional African space to be able to understand the realms of spiritual interactions and how to protect their children using some of those methodologies, only those who are more modern and may want to look at that as sarcasm can say it didn't work. But here you are as evidence that whatever they did worked. And as such, you would find people like Elisha. And I'm saying this, Dini, with a deep understanding of the misunderstood biblical text, where Elisha would tell Naaman, who is full of leprosy, and he wants to enter his house, no, you can't come into my house. Can you please go to the river there and bath yourself, and you'll be well. And the man, William Fuller. Now, if we start talking about telling a person to go to the river and bath, it's witchcraft. But even Jesus himself,
the mud, the spit.
He went to Jordan to be baptized by. So umlambo is a place of healing, and Naaman goes there, gets healed, as if rightly put it. Jesus mixes saliva and dust and heals another person, and Paul himself takes off his handkerchief, gives other people. They walk around other people and they touch them, and the people were healed. Which part of this are we misunderstanding? When Moses could raise up his stick and the waters would part, you touch stones and water would be spat out. How do we fail to understand Moses raises his hands and the armies, they win? How do we fail to understand a text that is full of such paranormal behavior? Paranormal behavior.
which we call miracles. And yet in our own lives, we demonize all these things as if they were evil. When in fact our African culture, and I've said this and I'll say it again, Denny, the culture that understands these things are the honors of the text. If the black book says, your brother has died, go and sleep with his wife, and please continue his generation. Find me a nation on the face of Africa that understands that culture. When you find them, they are the honors of the text.
Which culture is that?
Find me a culture that says, Hambu patala ilobol. Here's some cows and goats and money. Go and get a wife for my child. Find me that culture.
You've been around. I've only been in this country. Which cultures are these?
I'm taking you somewhere. You can tell where I'm taking you.
Let's go to.
If you find them, they are the honors of the text. So we cannot wait for white people who don't even have surnames and totems to tell us about the history of God. How can they tell us about the Lion of Judah when you don't even know who is Mgonyama?
I think we are moving somewhere. You've met one of my kids, my daughter here. She was watching one of the interviews we've had, and she says, "This man looks like Jesus." You know, I was so it it excited me when she saw Jesus.
Okay.
Can you say Yeshua?
Yehoshua. Jesus in me.
In you.
Wow. That's very interesting. But she's young, and what she sees and how she processes that, maybe, who knows? Maybe that's what she has dreamt about. Maybe that's what she has seen. Even in the midst of so much white face, and identify a Messiah structure, it can only speak to the innocence of her spirit and what she actually may conceptualize as what the picture of her Jesus should look like.
I want to say let's wrap it up, because I've been keeping you here for long and I was preparing, and I really apologize for your time. But I can't let you go without speaking to one of the most powerful sermons I've heard from you. It was very recent. You were at Calvin SDA Church. You were talking around, I think it's Revelation 3 or Revelation 7. You were talking about ingoma yehuno, and in the sermon you also,
and then towards verse 9, and it says, and I saw the great multitude from every kindred, from every language, from every kindred, from every language, from every tongue, and every nation. And that passage, in terms of its context, it's all in the apocalyptic. It's all in the parousia. It's in the kingdom itself. And for the black book to deliberately go to lengths to mention nationalities, tribes, languages, and tongues, I found that quite profound. Because then I said, our identity on earth, if it is still recognizable within the kingdom, then why are we embarrassed of it when we are still this side? In other words, makutwa tribe, languages, and tongues. Should makutwa amaxhosa pakamani minyan amaxhosa azophakama axense ngatwa amatsonga pakamani amatsonga azophakama ngatwa amakharanga phakama sizophakama kaloko. But why is it that here in the shadow of the parousia, these clans, languages, tribes, and cultural expressions are deemed as evil, when God in his righteousness post the second coming still will recognize us as languages, tribes, tongues, and people? And so that was the crux of the message. By the time we went on into Moses and the Lamb, it was now comparisons between the visible and the invisible, the law part, the grace part, the system, the institution, and the spiritual part. And the song of Moses and the Lamb becoming the song of, we need a correct combination of leadership and sacrifice. And I think
at an esoteric level, every leader, every father must have the Moses in them, and they must have the lamb in them. That's a man of steel and velvet, where order and grace, kiss each other constantly. You can't just be known as a hard father, and tolerate nonsense. No, when the toys are broken, the father must kneel down and go and repair the broken toys. And when big things must happen, when there's a noise outside, a father must take his stick and walk outside and protect. So it was a sermon, I think, coming from a very beautiful space where I was comparing the correct mixture of love and grace, power and understanding.
I think this is where we should end it. But as I did last time, I'm going to ask you to speak to the children of Africa, the different tribes, languages, kindred, shades of melanin, from the lightest to the darkest, like your hands. We are talking. We have been talking. It's time for us to move to a different space. We are now awake, Baba Mapong. Some of us are. But we still find ourselves in the same position. But we are concerned. We do not want our children to experience what we experienced.
We are Africans not because they call us Africans. We are Africans because we are born on this land. We have our history in this land. We have our future on this land. And until we know what killed our forefathers, it will kill us also. Knowledge of our history and our past will give us knowledge of our enemies in the present and be able to force. The talking that you are talking about is happening because people have not yet understood what needs to be changed. We need to change the systems of governance. We need to change the curriculums of education. We need to change our agriculture and the quality of food that we are eating. We need to change our business and economics and own means of production. We need to change our entertainment and our sports. We need to change our health and our technology. Ultimately, we need to change our spirituality. These 7 steps that I've given you must be a daily routine. When you look at your plate of food, you must see colonization. You look at the tablets that you are drinking, you must see colonization. When you are going to the bank, you must see colonization. And until another generation comes that understands how the colonial system was structured, we'll keep on fighting and exchanging hyenas with foxes and wondering why the sheep keep on disappearing. For Africa as a whole, we want to make a call, an awakening call, that let us look backwards and then we'll be able to see the future. That is Sankofa. For we are a great nation and we don't have to wait for other people to affirm us as to who we are. And part of our future slips in our past. Until we know who we are, they will define for us as to who we must become. And they will keep constantly make us footnotes on a narrative where we must be subjects. We need new political leaders. We need new bankers. We need new educators who can use their knowledge a new narrative for the African continent. My name is Maponga J. Chigaramboko. Garamashambahuda. Shirana wanwe wanji makumbe mwana mwesende weshano. Zwestedza zvinogwigwana wana manga ari pedo anotamba nazvo. Mutambo uri parware. Ndimi wakaramba kurima wakarima wanochema newe. Wanomushamba negore. Vachere mangoro navapfuri vayo. Kwira miti yasvosvo yechiwere. Panangokuba. Until we meet again, may the ancestors of the land, the spirit of the great continent of Africa, reside with you. Ase.